I'm going to cover the try-catch-finally syntax in two parts. I do that in my book, and I'm going to do that here as well. And that's because you need to see some more things, I guess, before you can really fully understand the finally portion of this, though I am going to mention the finally part now. So you can see down here in this area that this syntax is similar to other languages. If you use Java and other languages that have a try-catch syntax or try-catch-finally syntax, it's similar. It's just that the syntax in Scala is a little bit different. So inside this try area, you try to do whatever code you want to do. But the problem is that this code right here can throw one or more exceptions. So then what you do is you catch those exceptions. And so the way we write this area here is actually very consistent with a match expression. So you're actually matching on these different cases. And these are the different kinds of cases that you can get. So if you try to read a file, if I have a read file function, in the JVM world, a read file function can throw a file not found exception. And I believe they still throw an IO exception. So this one will be if the file isn't found. IO exception is typically if you can't read, if the file exists and you can't read it for some reason. And I don't show it here, but a finally clause would be down here in this area above the word notice. So, and this would say finally, and then you would close whatever resources that you need to close. So that's the part I'm not showing right now. To demonstrate this, what I can do is I can show you one way to convert a string to an integer using a function. And this is not a great way, so let me start with that caveat. This is not the ideal way in the Scala world, but I'm going to show this to you anyway. So I'm going to create a function named makeInt. It's going to take a string input parameter, and it's going, one way or another, it's going to return an integer. So then I'm going to do this with a try-catch-finally block. So I'm going to start with try, and I'm going to try to convert that to an int. And the problem with that guy is that it can throw an exception. It can throw a number format exception, so I need to catch that. So I'm going to catch it. In this case, I only have this one case. So I'm going to catch that exception, and I have to declare, well, I don't have to declare that as a number format exception, but I'm going to do that to keep my code clean and obvious. So when I get a number format exception, I'm going to convert that to a 0. This is the problem with this algorithm, is it's going to return to 0 when you have an exception. And I can also throw in a finally clause here, even though I don't need one. And then this one would be, like I said, this is where you close your resources in this area here. And I'll just put a little print line there. Came to finally. Okay, so that creates a makeInt function. So the way this should work, or the way this is intended to work, is you pass in a number like 1 as a string, and it returns 1 there. And you also see that, you get this finally output here as well. And if I pass in 0, I get 0. And then the problem here is if I pass in 0 like that, I also get 0. And if I pass in something like, hi, mom, I again get 0. So that's the problem with this algorithm. And we'll fix this later on in this course. But for our current purposes, the important parts here are the syntax. So this is how you write a try-catch-finally block. And to review, you put your code in this block area here, and this can be many lines of code, or as many lines of code as you need. And the issue with this block here is that it can throw one or more exceptions. So you catch those exceptions here, and then you handle them however you want to. So in this case, I'm returning 0 whenever I get a number format exception. And if I had other exceptions, I would just list them in here as different cases. And then in the finally area, you close any resources you have. So this part here, the finally area, is usually like if you're working with a file or a database or anything else where you have a resource that you need to close, you would do that here. And the key here is that the finally clause will always run. And I'm going to show what I mean by that in just a moment. One other thing I want to state also is that try-catch-finally returns a result. So that's how I'm able to use it as the body of this function here. So I define the function here, and that equals, and then what it equals to is this try-catch-finally block. So try-catch-finally returns a result, which is really cool. It's another type of expression. And one other thing I wanted to show is I mentioned that finally always runs. So what can happen here is that you can get things inside your try block that don't always run. So you have a print line. I'll add a print line statement here, and I'll just say after to int. And then let's go ahead and return, oops, go back there. And, oops, stand by. So we can say val res equals that. And then I could do that, print line, and then I can return the result there. That should make that happy. Go here, enter. Okay, so it was arguing that, or complaining that this block of code was not returning an int. In fact, print line right here returns unit. So it's saying I found a unit in this print line statement, but you're saying that your function needs to return an int. So I therefore will not compile. So that's why I changed the code to this. So I got a temporary result here. Then I do my print line, and then I return the result, which is an int, which matches that return type right there. So getting to what I wanted to show, I mentioned that finally always runs. So now I can show that try does not always completely run. So when I pass in hi mom, you will not see this output. You will only see that output there. So the code comes right here. It tries to convert hi mom, the string, into an int. It fails, so it throws the exception and it says, oh, okay, I'm going to return 0 here. But the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and close up my resources. In this case, I'm going to print this finally message here. So that's what it does. It prints that message and then it returns the 0 that comes from here. And just to prove that is true, I'll give it a real, proper number there. And then now you see the after 2 int right there, then the finally, then the 0.